When it comes down to script writing, you cannot afford to have Chat GPT writing a script. Content creators should know that they have a job to do so.
Introducing Syed Kashif, a senior media executive with 17 years of industry experience.
He has been with some of the biggest global media giants like National Geographic, Fox Networks Group, and the Walt Disney Company. Over the years, he has donned wide and critical roles like content development, broadcast operation, marketing, and programming.
It requires a collective effort to limit the use of AI.
It feels as if it's not authentic. It feels as if it's just. Hello everyone. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Liquid Gold podcast. Today's episode is very informative, knowledge driven, and quite frankly, it's been my personal favorite as of yet. It tells me a lot about my content and how important narrative truly is. So if you're someone who's trying to get into the media industry, Syed Kashif's journey is so important in helping us paving our own journey. So put on your headphones, relax, and let's transform the life lessons into the liquid gold. A very good morning, evening, good afternoon, wherever you are at the part of the world. My name is Mirza, and thank you so much for logging in to another episode of the Liquid Gold podcast. Our guest today is really one of the most important and the most highly influential people that we have so far invited in our segments for now. And his name is Mr. Syed Kashif. He has started his career as a segment director, and currently he stands as the head of content strategies and programming for Walt Disney Company, working with heavy hitting companies beforehand like National Geographic Channel, Fox Network Group, Asia, and UTV. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Syed Kashif. Very happy to have you, Mr. Syed Kashif. How are you?
Thank you so much, Mirza, for having me. This is the first time someone has shown interest in interviewing me.
Hmm.
Therefore, I'm very fascinated and excited about this podcast. I hope I do the justice with your audience and listeners who are live and who will watch us, hear us after that. But having said that, thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
But yeah, no, you're more than welcome. And also, it's again the other way around as well. Thank you for just coming in and helping our audience to just understand what this field is, what content management is all about, what skills you need to pursue this career, and what all things you have faced in your whole journey that you would feel that is very important for aspiring students who are coming up to see what's in it for them. So,
Look,
yeah.
I mean, there are so many questions in this, and I will try to break down one by one. Uh, I honestly I was born and brought up in a small city
Hmm.
of India, Rampur, which lies in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, roughly around 180 200 kilometers from Delhi. I did my schooling from Rampur, and then from there I transited to Aligarh. I did my plus two and graduation from Aligarh Muslim University, and after my undergrad, I got into Anwar Jamal Kidwai Mass Communication Research Center in Jamia Millia, where I initially applied for the MA degree, but I couldn't get into MBA, so I ended up doing postgraduate diploma in development communication. Having said that, it was a great surreal experience that was a gateway to me into the world of media and communication. I have always been fascinated by this profession. I've I think from the memory, I can tell you, uh, in a very, very long memory of mine, I always wanted to be in media and entertainment business. And AJK Mass Communication Research Center
Hmm.
gave me a platform, gave me a platform and introduced me to this world. From there, I joined a production house in New Delhi. I was a robust, hardcore television production guy, uh, running errands from one place to another place, uh, being yelled by the executive producers and the directors. And I learned hard way. I must
Mm-hmm.
tell you, I must confess, I learned hard way, because production and hardcore television or film production in India is not easy. It sounds, the facade is very glamorous and the charade is very glamorous, but it requires a lot of hard work to do productions in a country as diverse as India, where production the manner production happens changes from every geography to another geography. The way it is being done in North India is completely different in South India. The way it is being
Mm.
done in South India is completely complex in Mumbai. So you can imagine it came very hard way. So yes, it has, overall it has been an amazing journey. And one fine day, I was coming back from UTV and I got a call from National Geographic office in Dubai, and they were setting up their offices in this part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I was interviewed for roughly around 45-50 minutes on the people who are very familiar with Delhi and Noida, on the DND flyover which connects Delhi and Noida. I was
Mm.
interviewed on that highway. It was past midnight, and I when the interview finished, I came back home. I didn't tell anybody because I wasn't expecting another
Uh-huh.
call, a following call. But they did call me, and the second round, a couple of rounds happened, and in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I was in Dubai, and I've been with the company for 14 years.
Yes, it's quite a long
And
time. Yeah.
it is a long time. It is indeed a long time. But when a company allows you to grow,
Mm.
when they give you enough ample opportunities to nurture your talent, to do different multiple projects, then you don't easily move on. And a company as big as National Geographic, which was eventually later on acquired by the Walt Disney Company, we are part of the Walt Disney Company now.
Mm.
And so yeah, it has been, as I said earlier, it has been a great experience. As someone who studied in Rampur, then graduated from Aligarh, and then moved to to Delhi, working on this globally renowned brand.
Mm.
It's I think it's a feeling which is very overwhelming. I wouldn't shy away by saying it. I think it's an experience which introduced me to the whole world, which I wasn't introduced to. So
Mm.
yeah, Mirza, it is, as I said, it is great, and it is one of the industries which I encourage people who want to be in media and entertainment, that it is challenging. It requires a lot of hard work. There are ebbs and flows of this industry, but if you know how to maneuver, and you know what you need to do, then I think there is no going back.
Thank you. But if we just take it back to when you were transitioning from Delhi to Dubai, what do you think that you, because you've also mentioned that you've learned it the hard way. You've learned it not in a way that not many people would have learned it while entering into this field. But what skills you think that you had acquired from that learning that helped you to transition into Dubai?
Okay, so if you go back in time, and if you get an opportunity to see Syed Kashif of 2003 or 2000, or perhaps a bit before that, I
Mm-hmm.
think if you get an opportunity, if you have a machine to go back in time and see Syed Kashif of Rampur, you wouldn't be having this conversation. It requires it. I can tell you, it has taken a toll on me.
Mm.
I was somebody who was very introvert. I was someone who was extremely shy, never participated in school debates,
Mm.
I wasn't a student who was very active in extracurricular activities. Coming from that sort of an upbringing, and or coming from that sort of introvertness,
Mm.
it has, I can tell you, it has taken a toll on me. It is it I have worked very hard. I i i'm having this conversation, can tell you that I have genuinely worked very hard on this.
Mm.
I didn't know how to do conversations, to be very honest. I didn't have a gift of gap.
Mm.
As people say today that Kashif, you have a gift of gap, but I don't think I have a gift of gap. This is something which I have enhanced and worked tirelessly over the years,
Yeah.
to be very honest. And it requires a very different set of parlance and prowess, I
Mm.
must tell you, Mirza, to do this. I remember, when I was in Aligarh, I was in one of the prestigious hostels of Aligarh Muslim University. I was in McDonald, and I remember one fine day I I went to the market, I bought a mirror to myself, and I mounted the mirror. And when the
Mm.
partners were not around in the room, I would talk to myself. This is how I started conversations with myself. I think Aligarh has had an immense influence on me, especially the socio cultural
Mm.
influence on me. And then the Jamia, which was a cultural shock to me in the beginning,
Mm.
because I didn't have a the Jamia. I can tell you, when I walked into the Jamia Millia Islamia, the Mass Communication Research Center, the first feeling I got, it was like, heck, this is not my place.
You don't belong there.
Everybody, I don't belong there.
Mm.
It was something. I i look, I was born and brought up in Rampur, which is a small city but a culturally evolved city of UP. Or
Mm.
And it has it has its own nuances, its own ecosystem. It was a princely estate before the independence. It has Asia's second largest public library,
Yes.
which is a treasure trove of knowledge. The city has had many classical musicians. The city has had Rampur Sahaswan Gharana, Rampur Meher Sen Gharana. So you can imagine a boy born and brought up in a city which is very different from AGK, Mass Communication Research Center. I walked into the campus, and I was like, when I scanned the whole area, I was like, this I am a misfit here.
Mm.
And I can tell you, and I this is something I want to reiterate here for your listeners and audience, that first few months in Jamia Millia were were very difficult for me.
Mm.
Were very difficult for me, and in hindsight, very challenging. I can romanticize with those challenges today,
Yes.
while sitting here and talking to you, you being in London and I'm being in Dubai. But if you go back in time, it wasn't very romantic. And I'm not. It was challenging. It was hard, but thanks to the teachers, faculties, the whole ecosystem of mass communication department, which made me feel home.
Mm.
And some of my classmates, my peers, who were very friendly and very welcoming, because I was, in a nutshell, I was an alien in the class,
Yeah.
a person who came from another planet, with a very different sort of an upbringing and very different sort of schooling and college. Breathing in another life in that campus was very different. But yeah, that was important. that
Mm.
was that has significantly changed my outlook to the world. If I'm having this conversation with you here, I think Aligarh and mass communication department both have a huge role
Contribution, yeah.
in contribution in that. I must tell you, and from there on, it is never going back.
Yeah.
I One thing I want to highlight to your listeners and audience here,
Mm-hmm.
that media industry, you can't survive in this industry if you don't have good communication skills. Look, we are not doctors here, we are not engineers. We don't need to glorify our profession, to be very honest. We are
Mm.
not neuroscientists, we are not neurosurgeons, we are not cardiologists. We are media professionals, and our job is to set a narrative, because we do mass communication. Whatever we do, it connects with the masses. I
Yeah.
mean, we have a huge responsibility in setting up a social narrative.
Mm.
We can I mean, we have a potential in change, in bringing a seismic shift in a political election. But at the end of the day, we are we don't do any rocket science.
Mm.
It's the communication which stands out, which makes you very different. If you don't have good communication skills, unless you want to go into cinematography, which is completely technical, or a photography. But yes, largely the business requires. This is one of the important ingredients which is required to maneuver in this industry, is having a good communication skills. And keep your head down. When life gives you lemonade, and especially in in this field, gives you enough lemonade to sorry, enough lemon to make lemonade. This is how I should put it. So you keep
Mm.
your head down, keep working, and it things will be, you will be rewarded in due time.
So transitioning yourself, even from being an introverted person, like you mentioned that you were, even then you had to come out from your comfort level and you had to come out from your shell just to be very well in communication skills. Because I do know, and many people, when they hear the word content manager, that's the first thing that came to my mind, which was dealing with the masses. And then obviously, because you're dealing with the masses, you have to be very good with your communications. But even then, like, when the responsibilities are coming in to you, and the technical responsibilities that are coming with this role and this designation, would you also think that there are some, this is the major skill that you are emphasizing on? I can see that, which is communication skill, it's going to be up there every time. But what else would you also recommend to aspiring students right now?
Look, it is a combination of various factors. The
Hmm.
reason I emphasized on communication skills, that doesn't mean that's the only requirement of this in business. No, it doesn't. It is an important part, important pillar of this business. Having said that, there is a combination of various factors and
Hmm.
various skill set which is required to be in this business. You need to be very pragmatic.
Hmm.
You have to be very pragmatic. You have to have a good aesthetic sense. Yes, today data is important, but sometimes you have to let your gut take over the data.
Hmm.
Emotional intelligence is very important. Yes, you will see, I mean, all the young guys who want to be in this business, you will hear from people, data is the biggest commodity. Yes, we understand, we respect that. It is very important, but you have to let the emotional intelligence take over. you have to
Hmm.
have you have to be a human, because you're dealing with content, you're dealing with storytellers, you're dealing with filmmakers, you are dealing programming your channels. It could be a linear channel, digital channel, a podcast channel. if you don't know the human intelligence, if you don't know your audience, how
Yes.
would you program? I think so. uh, you have to be pragmatic. You have to be emotionally very intelligent. You
Hmm.
have to be you have to have a good cultural sensitivities. You have to know the cultural sensitivities where you are operating.
Hmm.
Each region has its own cultural sensitivity. US has its own cultural sensitivity. Europe has its own cultural sensitivity. Middle East
Hmm.
has its own cultural sensitivity. So you have to understand the geography where you are working. You need to be a good writer.
Hmm.
You should know how to write. You should know how to see things. You should know how to differentiate in between the reality and the fiction.
Okay.
That is very, very important. And I can tell you, having been working with a brand like National Geographic, where you only deal with facts and only
Hmm.
facts, there is no fiction in National Geographic. It's all about it's an organization which takes you, or which takes you into a world of deep science exploration and innovation. You need to be very reasonable. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's Mirza, it's we are not scientists, but we are not scientists in a way that we don't innovate new
Yeah.
gadgets and gizmos, but we have an utmost responsibility towards our audience,
Hmm.
because you are the one who are setting up the narrative. And I can and national and working with National Geographic is a very different experience. You report what you see. If your crew is filming in a jungle in Masai Mara, and I can tell you from one of the shows we were working on a couple of years ago, Great Migration.
Hmm.
It is a 6-part series. It's a 6-part series, only 6 hours, but 800 hours of filming had to be done to
Yeah.
make those 6 hours. So patience is very important, perseverance is very important. You have to have enough chutzpah to pursue your dream. You have to have enough patience. If you want to be a wildlife filmmaker, you can't dictate. You are not the king of the jungle. There's a lion who is the jungle, who is the king of the jungle, and there are animals, that's their fiefdom. It's not your area. You are tapping into the territory. That's
Hmm.
their territory. So you have to follow. If you are a guest, you have to follow the rule of the house.
It is. It is. Thank you so much. But it's just quite interesting that you've mentioned emotional intelligence, which is something that I relate with a lot, because with our content as well, we are always getting this responses from our team that the algorithm is saying this, the algorithm is saying that, but I always see that, to me, as it's not algorithm, it's an audience, and let's just call them audience and not algorithm, because algorithm makes it somewhat technical, makes it something that you cannot relate to and you cannot attach yourself emotionally. And that's one thing that's very important for me as well, which is, if you have an idea, you just give it a name first, so that it's not seen as an idea, it's seen as a product or as a thing which is there because it has a name. But again, coming back to emotional intelligence as well, because you've been in the industry for so long, you have seen the evolution of it. And now, because that's something that I'm also very interested in, which is artificial intelligence and how that is perceiving emotional intelligence, because you've mentioned storytelling, and there's so many aspects and so many jobs in this industry which I feel are in somewhat of a threat because of artificial intelligence. But this emotional intelligence that you are emphasizing on, which is to be aware of it and to follow sometimes with your gut feeling, irrespective of what the data is saying or with respect to what the data is saying. What have you seen throughout this industry as the media is evolving, and what are your experiences and your thought into this?
Look, Mirza, undoubtedly we live in a very digital world today.
Hmm.
And we can't deny the fact that the digital world works on algorithm data, and we also cannot deny the fact that data is the biggest commodity today.
Yes.
And it is the biggest right than any other right today. And this is uh, somewhat a crude reality of today's digital world.
Mm,
Having said that, I think data is very important. It's for content creators, for content marketers, for filmmakers, for storytellers. Data is important because at least that gives you a, a sort of an insight
mm,
who is watching you, who is listening you, and what sort of an appetite is required in the market. You know your audience today than ever before. You
mm,
know your you know your the audience which you never knew before. You know what sort of a phone they are using. You know what sort of clothing they wear, what sort of shoes they wear. You know each and everything about the audience today. And and today digital marketing is undoubtedly the most sought after marketing
mm.
for all the digital marketers and for all the big corporates. But sometimes, and I do believe in this, and I think yes, there is a plethora of information available through these tools, Social Baker, Google Analytics, and you can deep dive into your audience, and you can have a deep insight of your audience. But I personally feel somewhere beneath this plethora of information, we as filmmakers and storytellers and media professionals and content creators, we need to let, as I said earlier in one of my answers, we need to let our gut thrive over. We need to today. Have you heard about the recent strike in Hollywood? The
Yes, I
writers
have.
and the actors are on strike, and they have formed
Yeah.
a picket line in California. The reason of this strike is very apt. They are worried, they are anxious about the generating AI and the influence of generating AI in their industry.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong in technology. Look, technology is very important. It's an important tool. You and I are having this conversation. You being
Yes.
in London and I being in Dubai are is possible just because of technology.
Yeah,
Someone
we
thought
are
of
connected
internet.
digitally.
We are
Yeah.
digitally connected, and you can in after this interview you can easily you map out the audience. You can gauge out through your tools. You can gauge out a deep insight who watched you, what
Mm,
sort of phones they have. So this is all important. No, nevertheless, when it comes down to script writing, when it comes down to storytelling, you need to have a human mind, human heart to do that. You cannot afford to have Chat GPT writing a scripts. You
mm,
cannot, and nothing wrong against Chat GPT.
yeah.
Yes, this is the biggest threat Google has ever had in the last 20 years. After the launch of Chat GPT, Google had officially declared code red in the office.
Yes.
So it is an important tool, but it is an important tool to understand your audience and to map out your audience, not to write a story, not to write scripts, not to write a screenplay. You have to have a human mind. You have to have a human heart to write the emotions.
Mm,
Yes, I mean, just imagine going back in time. Titanic is being written by Chat GPT. I mean, can you afford to have those emotions which were
yeah.
imbibed? I mean, yes, it is important. No, this is an undeniable truth. The data
Mm,
is important. You need to know your audience. You need to know, for example, if you are a consumer product company, if you have a company which is manufacturing shoes, yes, you will go out to data companies and you will tell them, look, I have a shoe manufacturing company. I want to market my product, and this is a new product. I want to, and you go out and buy this data, and
Mm.
you, based on that data, you will figure out with some digital marketing brains on that who is your target audience. You can have a campaign running on Insta, you can have a campaign running on Facebook, you can tailor made your campaign on YouTube, you can do media buy on YouTube, for example. You will set your own target. You can, as Mirza and as an entrepreneur who had just launched the shoe product, you can target your audience, people who
Yes.
watch, who are into shoes, and who watch a lot of content on shoes and sneakers, and you can target all of that, and there is nothing wrong in that. This is great. As an entrepreneur, this is your right to market your product. As an entrepreneur, as a product guy, this is your job to market your product across all platforms.
Mm.
It has to be an omnidirectional marketing. But my reservation arises when I hear Chat GPT writing scripts. No, I differ.
Mm.
I I need to have a clear demarcation there. Human intelligence is important, emotional intelligence is important. Technology is great. The data is amazing. It's important. It's a gateway, but certain things should be left to humans. This is why I keep saying, even amongst my friends, that human intelligence is important. Even when I sit down and do our deep down insights on content and programs and films and documentaries, we do rely heavily.
On digital,
Yes,
yeah.
you have to go through a multiple hate stacks of information, of data, to
Mm.
to drive right information. This is important. You need to know what sort of programming is being watched, what sort of documentaries is being watched, what sort of audience is watching, what is their income, what is their gender, what is their demography, what sort of phone they use. This is all very important. If you want to do a theater play, you need
Mm.
humans to do, not robots to do theater play, right?
That's true.
We and I think, and some of the films which have been damn squibs on box office, I think, I don't know, I've not been executive producer, and without naming those films, in the recent past, big studios have produced some big films, and they have been damn squibs,
Mm.
because the producers have heavily relied on data. Yes,
Yes.
it's
Okay.
it. I think data is, as I said, I'm reiterating, data is important, undoubtedly, but you have to let humans drive that.
There is an ex Google officer. He left Google at the same time when you mentioned that Google announced that it's code red because of ChatGPT coming in to the market, and he just left. His name is Mo Gawdat. I believe I'm not pronouncing his name right, but he left the industry just because of how scary he thought that artificial intelligence is. He's written multiple books about it. But he has never, as at the same time, like you as well, he has never said anything bad to artificial intelligence.
Look, Mirza, artificial intelligence is not bad.
Yes.
It's not a threat.
Hmm.
It is incumbent on us humans
Yes.
to limit the use of artificial intelligence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he believes that a person who is using artificial intelligence would excel in his career compared to a person who is not using it. But at the same time, he d- he is iterating what you're saying as well, that it is a tool for us to use, not the main driving force, which is going to make big movies or intellectual scripts, which is going to work. Because as well, this year as well, it's shown us that movies that aren't relying much on technology, and they're very much focused on the driving force or the vision of what the director has or what the producers have and what the writers have, like Oppenheimer and Barbie, just to name a few. They are doing very well in the office just because of not relying much on what the mass data is talking about, and just focusing on the vision that people are giving in. I think that's what you're trying to iterate with your point as well, if I'm
Yeah,
not
I mean,
wrong.
I think you're right, and it says a lot, and I do believe that AI is very very important. I do believe, and I firmly believe that data, having access to data, studying data is very important,
Hmm.
but as a marketing tool.
Hmm. I'm just scared of a hypothetical future where the mass production of content is just because of AI, and through AI, because we've seen that with cars as well. We've seen that with many other technologies who were at first being manhandled, were behind a huge workforce, and then mass production of it happened because it got automated. But now with content as well, I believe that with AI, I'm just scared of the mass production aspect of it, because then human creators, there might be a time come in the upcoming future where AI might be starting a podcast and AI might be interviewing the guy in front of it. But
Or you can have an AI Kashif sitting here answering your questions. You never
yeah,
know.
yes, we never know. And also with our work that we were doing regarding the consultancy as well, I've had people coming in who state that they are writing their statement of purpose, basically their whole journey that they want, that they have been through by when applying for masters or bachelors here in the universities, and they said that they're using Chat GPT for it. And when I look into it, it's very generic, I believe. It feels as if it's not authentic. It feels as if it's just, taking the probability of what's working around it, 10, 15 online SOPs draft which are there, and then just tailoring it down to the person's life, but it doesn't feel authentic. And the main thing that's missing over there, and I do relate to that with what you've said, that the main thing which is not resonating is the emotional aspect, because that's one thing that I do see not coming in.
Look, writing a statement of purpose, I I don't know how would it work, honestly. If
Yes.
I'm writing an application for Harvard Business School or MIT, I would I would anticipate that the admission controller at Harvard or MIT would have a sense that the
Hmm.
statement of purpose is missing the human emotion in that.
Yeah.
And I think it is it requires a collective effort to sort of, limit the use of AI. There, it requires a collective human effort to do so. It is not only me, and as I said, I'm nothing against the technology. I'm very pro tech guy,
Hmm.
but it's just that I can't see AI writing the scripts. I can't see AI enjoying the serenity of Great Migration in Masai. I can't see
Yeah.
like I can't see AI enjoying the life below zero experience in Alaska. I really can't see. Uh, it pains me a lot if AI takes over, but time alone can tell us.
Yeah.
I think we humans will realize sooner or later that certain things should be left to human beings, not to robots. Yeah, although tech is very important, but certain things should be left to humans. This is what I
Yeah.
believe. So, and
Marching forward for a utopia that we want might be not good for us sometimes. But um again, mentioning to the strikes that you've mentioned, to the layoffs that's coming in to the media market right now, should the budding media professionals be scared of it? Especially, we've also mentioned AI coming into the picture. There is also this thing that's actually happening. We are seeing some effects of it. What would you be commenting on your insights regarding that, regarding the opportunities for aspirants?
I think these temporary fluctuations have always been there. Uh,
Mm,
I think this is part and parcel of any transition. Media industry, uh, I think, is gone beyond the transition. We have transited from linear into streaming and fast TVs, and the
mm,
whole industry is a complex blend of many things today. I don't I don't think the budding media aspirant should be incredulous of this profession. It's just that it today it requires a very different skill set.
mm.
It Some of the jobs have been redundant because of the technology. Yes, undoubtedly, there's no denying in that. But there are many jobs which have been created
Because
because
of
of
it.
technology.
Yes. Yeah.
You Today you require today every company requires digital marketing brains, I think, which is a good business to be in. Digital marketing, content creators, I think, uh, today is the time of content creators. I know I honestly sometimes I feel I start open my own YouTube channel and monetize it through Google.
Yeah.
But I know many people who are making a lot of money through content by through creating content. So content creation, my personal opinion on that is slightly different from being commercially viable. I mean, this being commercially viable is very important. It is not being cynical about any profession. It's you have to make money to run yourself, right? But content creators should know that they have a job to do so.
Mm.
You cannot just create content for the sake of creating content. I
Yeah.
think that's where the line needs to be drawn. And I think this is what I said in the beginning, that we have to it is incumbent on us, and we have to have enough our conscience need to be very clean, because you are creating content for your audience, and you should not create content which is a constant font of gaffe, or of being critical, unnecessary critical of somebody, or sexual escapades. No, I think content creators need to be very vigilant, very responsible. It's a job, for
Mm.
for God's sake. They need to understand. So in this complex world of media, where TV is not being watched the way it was watched before, you exponential rise of streaming platforms. Within streaming, you have SVOD, subscription video on demand, ad supported video on demand, FVOD, transactional video on demand, TVOD. You have so many VODs today. And then you have fast TV now,
Mm.
um, which is growing in the US significantly. There was a report which I studied that by the end of 2027, the revenue of fast TV in the US will be around $12.7 billion. So it's very
Wow.
complex today, Mirza. It's not linear.
Mm.
Box office is not performing for many reasons. Films have been damn squibs. Streaming is very chaotic. Netflix came 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and they came, they ruled, they conquered, and they made a meal of it. My hunch is that there will be an exponential rise of regional streaming platforms,
Yeah.
like we had seen in TV.
Yes.
That if you go back in time, there were state-owned TVs, and then satellite came,
Mm.
cable TV came, DTH came, cable IPTV came, and from having one channel, all of a sudden you have hundreds of channels to watch, and then regional channels and international channels. I think streaming will also go through that phase. I think
Okay.
today you have global streaming giants who are at loggerheads with each other, and looking for fresh advertising revenue. Everybody is looking for a fresh advertising. It's not easy to monetize these
Nowadays, I
platforms.
do get that. Yes,
Yeah,
it is
it's
that.
so
It is
so
the
I
case.
think I think it's a very complex world. but it's interesting and an exceedingly intriguing world. I think today a media professional has to wear multiple hats. A
Mm,
script writer has to be a good salesman because he has to write from that angle. Also, a programmer has to be a good marketing guy, a good salesman. It's not a one person doing one job. If you are a media professional today, you have to be very pragmatic, you have to be very realistic, you have to wear multiple hats. Brevity is the soul of it, they say. you have
mm,
to you have to know a couple of things within that business, because it's becoming complex and very challenging, very challenging. It's I they say that today media business is a maze of multiple platform, which is true. Uh, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago Oppenheimer and Barbie.
mm.
You tell me honestly, would you like to watch Oppenheimer or Barbie on a small screen, or would you like to watch theater? So, would you
Yeah.
like to watch in the theater? So, I think today we have come at a cusp where we have to decide content for each platform.
Mm,
Content for theater should be done in a different way. Content for OTT should be done in a different way.
yeah.
Content for TV should be done in a different way. I think they all have to complement each other, because and it's before one of them becomes completely redundant or coffee table book, as they say. I think all these platforms have to find a way to complement each other rather than hampering each other. This is what
Mm,
my personal point of view here is, that studios, networks, corporations have to be very, you know, uh, uh, have to be very realistic in their approach. All of them are experience. I mean, watching content on OTT is an experience. You are
mm,
your own scheduler. Nobody is dictating you. You watch what you want to watch. But at the same time, selecting content on OTT is a nightmare. You spend
yes.
45 minutes, 50 minutes on an OTT platform, realizing and figuring out what to watch, what not to watch.
Yeah.
And then going to a theater is an experience. You put your family in a car, go to a theater, buy popcorns, buy nachos, buy mermaid, sit down in one row, and lights turn off, great sound, Atmos sound, and then you watch something like Oppenheimer and on Barbie or Avatar.
Mm.
So all of them are immersive experiences, I think. And as I said, it's a transition, and time alone will tell us where we go.
I do have a speculation. I do feel that what you've said, it's very true, and there's a lot of truth into it, because you've mentioned that content creation is something that's going to be very common, and everyone's going to put their foot into it. And I do see that myself. I do think that after 3 or 4 years, or by I think after like within 5 years or so, because technology is just adapting and changing every day, I think many people would be a content creator either by choice or by force, because as you've mentioned, that we have to wear multiple hats, and that's the same thing for any stream right now. Especially your industry is, it's quite ever changing, it's changing by every second. But I do see the same change evolving coming into our industries as well, the construction industry, the maritime industry. And it's the main reason why this is all coming into this is all here. The main reason why this podcast is here as well is because for me getting guidance, and for me to get people of interest, and people of knowledge, and people of information. There's just so many information out there, but to tailor make it yourself, to make it in a way that you understand it, and to have your own questions coming up, that's why this podcast came into being. But for that, I have to put into the persona of being a content creator, because it's not only that I contact you and then we set a time and then we have a chat and then you explain it to me. It's by creating content. It's by not only helping myself, by helping an audience as well. And I see many people take that route in the upcoming years, because me personally, I just had a lunch in a restaurant yesterday, and I was sitting on the table, my the other guy was sitting there. We didn't speak to each other, we didn't even make any eye contact because we were invested in our phones. And then he looked at me and he said, "Where are you from?" Yada yada yada, basic introduction. And then he just tapped on my phone and I got all of his social media handles. And he said, "Oh, if you want to know a bit more about me, you can just follow me on these platforms and get to know about me. And if you want to talk, we can contact me through that." So rather than
So
having that physical
I
interaction, I have to still use this tech. So,
so I have an anecdote. A friend of mine in a company had to interview someone for a job.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. And a day before that interview, it it just so happened that we were we sat down for dinner, and he mentioned to me in that discussion that, oh my God, tomorrow I'm interviewing for this position, and I have a couple of interviews lined up. If you know someone, please refer it. uh, and one thing which is very interesting, which he mentioned in that he has he has requested his team and HR to go through their social media profiles,
yes.
and and until that moment, Mirza, it did not occur to me that why did he ask the team to go through or to scan the platform. But I think then he explained it to me that before meeting them in person, he wanted to have an idea of their social feeds. He wanted to have an
Mm,
idea of their behavior, of their mindset, of their allegiance, of their defiance, of their likings and dislikings, sports and hobbies, and they wanted to have they wanted to have a caricature drawn or of each candidate before they personally arrive for the interview. So yes, as you said, that AI and technology is bringing seismic shifts, and
mm,
in some industries it has revolutionized skirmish, undoubtedly. But it will only grow, and it will grow by leaps and bounds, because it is something which is bound to happen. You
mm,
can't stop that. Areas which require human intelligence,
yeah.
which require human touch. Yes, AI is important in surgeries, and AI technology is great in surgeries, but you need to have a doctor, a
Mm,
physical doctor, to do that. And I can tell you from my personal experience, I am going through a dental procedure these days. And day before yesterday, I'm going through an implant of a premolar. And a day before yesterday, I happened to be with my dentist. Normally, when I go for my sitting, he etherizes this whole area,
mm, mm.
and he makes the thing numb. I don't feel anything. But this time, he gave me local anesthesia, which only etherized a small part of this portion of my jaw. However, I could feel the stitches and touch, and it was paining a lot. And I was yelling at him. I said, "Doctor, what have you done? Why didn't you give me proper anesthesia? Why didn't you only give me 5% or 10% of anesthesia? Why didn't you etherize it completely?" He said, "Because although I have your scans and X-rays but I want you to feel this pain, because if you have this whole area numb and etherize, I may penetrate your nerve, because I'm
Oh,
I'm drilling the implant. Look at it. Look. I wish I would have him here to explain you, and I understood his psychology. The reason he did not etherize the whole area, because he wanted me to feel the pain.
mm,
He wanted me to feel the pain, because that pain would restrict him and would control his drilling process. Because
Hmm.
if the whole area was etherized and numb, he would have penetrated into the jaw, and he might have damaged the nerve, which he should not have. Because I was feeling the pain, that restricted his maneuvering and his whole drilling process. Because I could, my body language could tell him that he's hitting the nerve now. I mean, yeah, it's great, but I don't want. I mean, I understand the hotels need to be updated, and they need to be, evolved, and this whole hotel industry is hospitality is overall evolving, and everything looks glossy and glamorous. Great, I like this whole concept, but sometimes I like the old traditional way. I'm tired. I get into my hotel. I check. Go into my room. I don't want any Alexa or any smart lights to. I know they do take care of the circadian cycle of the body,
Yeah.
but I don't want that. I want to
Room service.
go. So I want to go a human delivering me what I want. I
It
want
is
just
um it is
simple.
it is that debate though. It is that debate when
It
people
is.
say
It
that
is.
doctors would be losing their jobs because of AI or maybe any other technological advancements. It is that thing that would you be comfortable in hearing a bad news from a person, or would you be comfortable in hearing a bad news about your health or someone
I
you are
agree.
dear to from a robot? And that
I
is
agree.
that your example analyzes it and very well. But at the same time, like you've mentioned regarding the HR as well, the I call it social media footprint, like carbon footprint. You have to leave some
The
of your
social
social
media
media
footprint,
footprint.
I know that.
I
I get that.
I call it because that's the same thing and same process of how it went through with our office as well. Because I overheard a conversation where there was a person who was very much overqualified. That person had more number of experiences, more number of years of experience, and the main reason why it was difficult for the organization to hire that person compared to a person with, I think, 30% less experience from that individual. The main reason was that he had no social media footprint. For example, he had no projects on his LinkedIn. He had no like a proof of his experience in his social media platforms, and that was the main reason, because they were not quite confident with what was written in the resume compared to what it showed in the other platforms. And that's why they had to go with the other individual, which was who had less experience, but like that person had more set of social media footprint that they could give. And
So
similarly with you as well, like this is something that we've been talking a lot here in the UK, and this is an upcoming problem which I'm looking for myself as well, as an upcoming individual who's just starting off in his career. And that the main thing is that because of technology and because of people working from home, the how COVID has impacted the whole industry, it's getting very hard for people to train individuals and to train upcoming graduates who are coming to their career and into this industry. And it's on both end as well. Like students are not that amping up, because me personally, i I've never worked full time and went to the office whole Monday to Friday for a whole week, because we have remote
I
working is an
understand.
option. And I do see the other side of it. I do see the consequences where you are getting very hard in making a good connection with your colleagues. You're getting very it's very difficult to ask for assistance when no one's around you and you're in your house.
Yeah.
Because of that, we have started that initiative in our office where we are all planning to come in at least 50% of the whole week, and building communication, having some time off work where we are just discussing about it. And that's a huge problem in this coming time, and also another advantage for AI to overcome, because it doesn't need anything. But yes, like is this the same thing that you're finding it in your industry? Is that the case for you as well?
Look, how much footprint you need. So much social media footprint is available. You have got several platforms under uh, Alphabet. You have You have
Mm.
uh, Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn. Now you have Twitter, which is X. I mean, that's a murder of a brand. I'm sorry, that's a different discussion. Um,
Yeah.
that's a different discussion for some other podcast, which I would
We
love to have.
I'd be happy to
Yeah,
discuss that as well.
but honestly, how much footprint would you need, Mirza? I can tell you, I was reading in New York Times the other day when Threads was launched
Mhm.
by Mark Zuckerberg. Within 2 hours, the thread had 15 million signups, and by the time Mark Zuckerberg woke up next day after 16, I think after 16 hours, 100 million signups, if my memory is serving me right. How many social media footprints? Where do you want to go from here? I mean, within a few hours, within 2 hours, 15 million signups, within 16 hours, 100 million signups. What sort of a world are we in today? So
We now need another platform where we are accumulating all these platforms so that it's easier for you to be noticed in all the other platforms now.
I think if I want to get into a business, and I don't want to spill beans here. It's a time of startups today.
Mm.
Yes, AI has completely radicalized many industries like academics, for example, today. So how much footprint you need? And it affects your attention span.
That is true. That is one of the
Eh,
things that I hate because I am very much interested in, listening to podcasts and listening to many people talking for like 2 hours, 3 hours. And now I know people who can't even like be engaged into something for less more than 20 seconds, especially not
20
us now, people who are just like the kids, small kids who are just like 3 or 4 toddlers. They are finding it so hard to focus on one task at a time, mainly
that's
because
a
of how
very
small the attention span is.
That's a very valid point. Because of the attention spent, content creation has been reduced. The
Mm.
length of content had been reduced. I mean, you can imagine today the generation Z, the Gen Z, they say, I think I'm at the threshold of being a millennial. I've just turned 40, but am I a millennial?
I am not sure
No,
because for
am
me,
I a,
I
am
think
I
yes, you might be because I assume you are quite in your late 20s and you seem very young, but
No, no, I am young. What do you mean? I'm not sounding very rudimentary here. I'm saying that the Gen Z don't have enough attention span.
mm,
It's okay. So now we are into a world of shorts.
yes,
Okay. Everybody is doing shorts. You go on YouTube, you see shorts thumbnail. You go on Twitter, you see very short sizzles and Twitter lift, and you go on Facebook, you see shorts. Because of us being cynical of spending more time on content, I think we are we are into a more complex world, which is
mm,
shorts, and which is very dangerous. Everybody wants to have a lot of information in 30 seconds.
yeah,
How is it possible? I mean, how can you have everything imbibed in 20 seconds? If you want to know about a subject, you have to study that subject, you have to go through that, you have to understand some stats and data.
mm,
But within 20 seconds, if there's a shot with nice graphics and nice lower thirds and the mastheads,
yeah,
and within 20 seconds we feel we are educated and we know everything about everything,
mm,
which is not right.
it
The
is.
attention span has been reduced. The knowledge has been, I wouldn't say reduced, but significantly the standard of knowledge is subdued today.
Yeah. This was a prediction that there will be a lot of information, there will be a lot of knowledge, but not many people would be knowledgeable. And if people didn't know how to wrap their heads around it, current scenario, I do feel that it is quite like that. It's we have a lot of information everywhere, and not many knowledgeable people, not many people to guide you on how things should be done. And I am a victim to that as well. For me to ask one of my peers of how to do this task, I would rather choose some other media platform like YouTube or some other bits where I can learn those bits from there, and not having to show this that I don't have that skill. But what that has done for me personally is that I've been dependent of that skill because I have not learned it by myself, by going through an experience, by learning it, by going into it, dissecting it, and then working on it. For me now, every time I have to use that command or use that tool again, I have to go back to that video just to recall what was the command for that, and then go back to it. And I've seen myself being a victim of that, so now I'm trying to focus on dealing with the whole solution by myself, which will make me a bit more skillful rather than being dependent on a video which explains you how to do what. And I think that presently it is the case for us.
I think, yes, I can say that I'm a byproduct of a non-digital world and a
Hmm.
digital world. I do remember no digital around me, and
Assistance,
I
yeah.
and I am completely dependent on digital world today. So I'm a byproduct of both the eras, and as I said earlier, we need to be very cautious and very prudent in our approach when we consume what we consume, what we watch, where we watch, and what sort of content we are consuming.
Hmm.
I think shorts are great, fantastic if you're sitting in a metro and going to office, or you're waiting for somebody and at a bus station, and you have nothing. If you don't have a book to read, great. If you don't, then yes, short suffices the purpose, and they do have, to some extent, they do have a lot of information, but completely relying on shorts, this exceedingly heavy reliance on shorts,
Hmm.
and ignoring and abandoning um, proper consumption of knowledge through books, through pads, through papers, through research, is also completely wrong. I think we
Hmm.
need to find a way where we have to balance both. We have to balance both. It is as innocuous as it sounds. I think uh, too many educated, qualified people around with less education.
Hmm.
I think I'm not being condescending here or patronizing here. I'm also one of those people who struggle with that, and I all I can tell people that uh, be very cautious what you consume. Use your mind. Don't let the platforms drive your decisions. Don't let us drive your narrative. We are the narrative builders, as we say. But don't use your mind. It is very important to be intelligent. Yes, taking information from all sorts of sources, it's great, it's overwhelming,
Hmm.
but please do your intelligence, please do your research, and consume content. Nothing wrong in that. Netflix is great. There's some amazing content on Netflix. All the platforms have some good content, and even the shorts. Some of the shorts are great. I mean, honestly, I can tell you, some of the shorts are exceedingly knowledge, fulfilling and satisfying, and they some of them are purveyor of good messages.
Hmm.
They end up being purveyor of good messages, and all I can tell you, but it's us who have to decide. It's look, when it comes to news, I can give you an example with news.
Hmm.
News is very subjective.
It is.
Most of the time you watch what you want to watch.
Yeah, it's a bubble
if
now.
you
Hmm.
if you want to if you are if you, as they say, right wing or left wing, If you are from the right wing, a hardliner or the fringe, they say, you have your own media outlets and media platforms to go.
Mm.
That satiates your taste buds, and you succumb to that sort of narrative, honestly. But if you're the center guy or a left guy or a liberal guy, as they say, you have your own niche, you have your own media outlets, people who are driving the narrative. So it's
Mm.
very subjective. But on both sides, as a media professional, I can tell you, it's the consumer who has to decide. It's the
Okay.
consumer who has to use the mind. You cannot, I mean, you are being fed from all over the places, and it's our job to feed you. Look, yeah, it's our job to feed you, because at the end of the day, every business has to be commercially viable.
Yeah.
But as media professionals, you have to have a social responsibility, and
Mm.
that's where I my personal opinion on these news outlets, because they are also content creators, they are also content marketers, that it is a responsibility. Take it as a responsibility.
Mm.
Don't, nothing beyond that. Don't extra glorify your profession. We are not astronauts, we are not scientists, we are not neurosurgeons, we are not saving lives. We are just media professionals. It's a humble profession. You make content, you drive content, but don't drive the narrative. It's you I must you Have you seen the film The Hack on Netflix?
No.
I urge you to watch The Hack.
It's a very huge sense of responsibility. Yeah, it's quite interesting. We have a lot of opportunities, but yet the pie for the revenue, it's shrinking because of how saturated the market is being at the moment, and at the same time, it's always evolving as well. But yes, lastly, Mr. Kashif, thank you again for bringing in your insights. I've learned a lot that I wasn't aware of, and even though there are so many things that help or direct a person into something, but it just from your conversation and from your insights, I can see the whole system flowing, if that makes sense, because I would be just interested in the cinematography aspect, but through your insights I can see the bigger picture and how it's going on, and that shows from your experience, I can say that. But we do end our podcast with a very a question, which is that if there a quote that you live by, or if is there a life lessons that you have achieved in the past 16 years of your experience in the media industry?
Look, there is no, and it sounds a bit of a cliche, but it's a truth. There is no alternate to hard work.
Mm.
Okay, there is no alternate to hard work, and I still have. I'm very surprised that you showed interest in interviewing me, as I said in the beginning. But it's still a long way to go. I still have some dreams which have to be achieved.
Inshallah.
I I I I began my career in media industry as a content producer and a and a content creator. I used to do a lot of executive producer work back in those days. But I think over the years I have evolved myself as a media business economist.
Mm.
I I see the landscape from a very different angle today.
Mm.
I think I think I began my career with with the creative thread suppressing my commercial thread.
Mm.
But today I think I've become more of a media economist, and I believe that commercial viability is very important, and it
Mm.
is everyone's prerogative and a right. Because if you are not commercially viable, you can't run any business, any entrepreneurship, and but at the same time, and I am reiterating that, look, we have to take our profession very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
We have we should know what we feed, what we consume, and how we make, and what we make. Um, the, you need to have there are so many challenges in this industry. You need to have patience. As I said, you need to have uh, good communication skills. You need to have good business skills.
Mm,
You need to have an eye to differentiate between good story, relevant story, uh, good platform, relevant platform, good campaign, relevant campaign.
mm,
You need to have you need to be very cautious of that, and just you cannot be just a purveyor of stories and content. You need to take some responsibility. We need to take some responsibility, and it's a complex world,
mm,
and there are enormous challenges. As I said, turf is very murky and outstayed, but at the same time, ample opportunities are available at our disposal. We need to be smart enough to leverage those those opportunities. Forgive me for that, and it is lovely to be here. I enjoyed this conversation. Honestly,
mm.
it is. It as I said, first time doing a podcast. I hope I have said something sensible. I hope your audience and listeners have found me something. Have found something uh, something more authentic. I have, I'm not a data driven. I am a data driven guy, but this podcast is not based on the data. It's a human intelligence driving that,
Yeah.
and it's as they say that there's no quote which I would like to quote here per se, but let's have meals in peace rather than a buffet partaken in anxiety. This is what this is I would like to sum this up by saying that let's have our meals in peace
Mm-hmm.
rather than buffets partaken in anxiety. The, this is how we're going to create a more holistic world, and more dynamic world, more sustainable world in
Mm.
media and entertainment.
Well,
And
thank you
we can
so
have more
much.
discussions, more topics
In
in
the
the future.
forthcoming future,
Yeah,
I am so happy that you've agreed to come, and you've been it's been a mixed bag of so much information,
no,
and I'm so
thanks.
happy that you have agreed to come in. The audience loved it. They are saying that there are many things that they've learned, and coming from an experience that you've mentioned, which is an era which was not very much technology driven, to an era where everything is relying on technology, and having to see all of those phases. It really shows through your experience, by your speech and by your explanation, because that is something that you cannot get from Chat GPT. I assure you that. And thank you so much for the audience as well to be
Microsoft
so
is
patient.
spending billions of dollars in ChatGPT, so be careful what you say.
I am I do see a future where it's always this thing that we are having would be an antique thing, where people would be like, oh wow, we're watching content from a human being. And I am ready for that as well, because I feel as this platform and this conversation we're having, it's not only helping our audience, but majorly it's helping me a lot in shaping my mindset to how things are not working. There is a lot of things personally that I have learned from you, Mr. Kashif bhai, because there are some things that I feel that I'm very good at, but there are many things that I feel that I'm very bad at, and those things I can see those points being
Which is why
highlighted.
you are a human being. You are not a robot, my friend.
Mm,
Which is why you are a human being. You're not You're not driven by Chat GPT or Chat GPT is great, and uh, uh, every evolution is great.
mm.
It's just that um, there has to be some checks and balances. That's it.
Yeah, there
I
there
mean,
needs to be some set of regulations. I do agree to that.
And I think in Europe on 25th of August, the Digital Services Act is going to be a profound
Hmm.
revolution in that, because that's something which I would like to see across the world.
Me too.
I think that Digital Services Act is going to be a gateway for many economies and companies in the world. Honestly,
Yeah, we have
yeah,
not landed on Mars, but we do have two worlds here where we are. Where
yeah.
we are, there's a digital world, and there is this world that we are living in. But again, um, great to have you,
You're
Mr.
welcome,
Kashif.
my dear.
I
You're
very
welcome.
very much really grateful for you to be coming in
I
here and sharing so much valuable insights from
My
your
pleasure. My
experience.
pleasure.
And
My pleasure. I
hopefully
hope.
we'll see you again in the forthcoming future. We'll be
Yeah, yeah.
discussing
We
so
can.
many things such as Twitter and all the other bits that you've mentioned as well, and
I
we
would
can have
love to
that
talk about
discussion.
Twitter and the X mark, and we can have a conversation on that and the S wars and the A wars and the whole media business. But yes, it is lovely. Thanks for having me, and I hope your audience will like that. And looking forward to see this final product.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our audience, and again, thank you so much to our listeners, to our sponsors, and again, you can take your headphone off, be relaxed, and thank you so much for letting us transform the life lessons into the liquid gold experiences. Thank you.